Check. Check, 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 check. Should be able to hear me on YouTube, hopefully. I'm hoping so. Yep. Okay. All right, to check it on YouTube real quick. Oh man, I should have just done YouTube because it's gonna be tricky stuff. You know what? Yeah, let's do that. Okay. We're just gonna do a home window and no display. Okay. Yeah, we'll just do that. Okay. Okay. Hopefully you can see everything. I'm gonna put this in a folder. All right. You got a couple people. That may be all we have, which is fine with me. Let's see. Hey, Capricia. Haley. Yeah, I'm gonna wait just a minute. Hello. Before I jump in. If you want to get on YouTube, if you have a computer nearby, you'd be able to see the edits better. I've never done this before, so oh, good, Brooke, you can hear me. Okay. Never done this before. I just want to make sure that you get the most benefit out of it. I think you can see my screen, so let's see. When I flip something open, yep, okay, good, perfect. Okay. And let's see. Oh, all right, I gotta hit record on TikTok, so I'm gonna hit record there. And I need to hit record on YouTube. I think it automatically saves it. I hope so. That's what I'm hoping for. All right. So it's a few minutes after. I don't want to waste anybody's time, so we'll go ahead and jump in. Thanks for climbing on and hanging out with me. I'm going to be looking at your questions, so feel free to ask as we're going. Before we get started, I just want to say thanks to everybody who submitted manuscripts. I poked around at the submissions I got and chose a few that I thought presented common opportunities for growth that many writers face. Do note that I'm doing 4 stories. 3 of them are kid stories. I do a lot of kids' books, so I guess that's only natural to get a lot of kid stories. And one's a novel. I got more picture book manuscripts sent my way. Yeah, so that's why we're waiting to live stream that direction. But you should be able to learn something from any of the stories that I'm looking at. Again, thanks to everybody who submitted. Mighty brave of you to offer your manuscript for live editing. Very cool. If your manuscript wasn't chosen, sorry. But hopefully you'll learn something. If you have questions, I've already said it, but I'll say it again. Just drop those in the comments, and I will get those. Or if you can't hear me, well, I guess if you can't hear me, you can't say that you can't hear me. And I do plan, assuming that the video records on YouTube, I plan to put it all up on YouTube later. So if there's something you want to go back and watch again, feel free. Welcome everybody who's coming in. I'm expecting this live stream edit to take about, to take about 30 minutes. But I really don't know. It could take 3 minutes. It could take 45 minutes. I don't think we'll get to an hour. We might. But as I do with all my writers, I'm going to try. I encourage them to make it as short as possible and as long as necessary. So that's what I'm going to do. Try to keep it short and sweet, useful, etc. So, without further ado, let's jump into it. As I said, most of these are going to be kid stories. I've blacked out authors' names just because I forgot to ask if they cared if I identified them, so we'll just do it like that. And I'm going to take a quick look. It looks like everything is showing up on YouTube and TikTok. If you can't see something, let me know. Otherwise, I'm going to assume you can. And also, I'm working my home office and I don't talk a whole lot usually. So I'll be drinking water here and there because I'm just not used to talking this much. So here we go. We're looking at a kid's book about dementia, memory care, and grandparents' love. It's called Grandma Got a Doll. And the first thing I noticed, I'm just going to give you kind of I actually wrote some notes down, but I'm going to give you what went through my head, what goes through my head as I first see a manuscript like this. Again, it's a kid story. It's a picture book. She said it was for pretty young kids. Picture books are, right? And you can see Lou, new, fair hair pair. Right away, you realize this is a rhyming story. If you're writing a rhyming picture book, do know that this presents some potential problems. And I'm going to tell you what some of these are. So if you're a picture book writer and you're thinking about doing something in rhyme, that's fine. That's great. But there are some things to look out for. One is meter, which is your syllable count. It's important to have syllables match up line to line, right? There are exceptions, and you can make exceptions here and there. But for the most part, you want your lines to have a similar syllable count, right? The iambic pentameter, that's 10, right? So you got 10 syllables. A lot of stuff has 12, 8. It's just find what feels right for your story, stick to it, and so that when you don't stick to that syllable count, it has some oomph and it makes sense to people, and it makes the story better instead of distracting, right? It's kind of a break from the normal pattern where it's drawing attention to something. And also some other tricky stuff about this with syllable count, with the meter. Different readers are going to read the meter differently. I will edit a rhyming story, give it to my wife to edit also, and she's like, this doesn't have the right meter because she reads it different. It's just tricky, right? And then we have rhymes like Lou, new, fair, hair, pair. When you're rhyming, everything has to rhyme. Most everything has to rhyme. It's helpful to have pretty much everything help to rhyme. I like near rhyme. My wife doesn't. And for kids' books, I think a strong rhyme and not a near rhyme is better. So my wife wins that argument. Not that we argue about it. So, but you also don't want what I would call cheap rhymes, which are, and I'm not trying to insult these rhymes, but they're the rhymes that come to your head when you first write something. If you write something real quick and you're like, oh, I'm done, let's go send that off to publisher. Don't do that. Read back through it and look for the stronger words that can say things. If you're rhyming words like, I don't know, if we look here like two, I probably wouldn't rhyme with two, especially since you're rhyming two with two. I think you can see that on my screen. So you got two, and then you got stew in the middle of it. So words like that, words like you, me, right? Just kind of you just want to try to come up with more creative ways, which might mean rearranging your sentence. And also when you're rearranging these rhymes, don't make it read in an unnatural way. You want it to be a natural and easy to read story. And now this is something we'll touch on with all kids' books, is length. You want it to be as short as possible for picture books. I try to go I really like picture books that are like 150 to 600 words. All right. This has twice that much, which is okay. You can have that much, but an interesting problem with rhyming picture books, again, I'm not down on them. I'm just kind of letting you know what to look for, is that with a rhyming picture book, you want as few words as possible because you only have so many options when you're laying out the picture book. You have to have, ideally, you want those rhyming words at the end of a line. It's Moonrise. It's not all kids' books. There are 3 out of 4 are kids' books, but I'm also going to do a novel also. But you have to lay out you want that rhyming word at the end of a line, which means you can't just let the paragraphs break go wherever they want. So anyways, let's look into this. I see something interesting. Right, just looking at it visually, you've got 2 lines, which is a couplet, right? You got 3 lines, which I had to look up. It's a tercet. You got 3 lines and 2 lines. So when you have that, you're like, ooh, interesting. This is going to be 2, 3, 3, 2, 3, 3, 2, 3, 3, but it's not. It's 2, 3, 3, 2, 2, 4, 4. It's like, that's odd. So you'll need to, I'm not going to fix them all right now, but I'm just kind of walking through what I would do to meet reader expectations. All right. So 2 lines is great. I've actually, 3 is a pretty rare thing. So to be honest, I would go through and start chopping out these 3rd line ones where you have fair hair pair, 2 stew 2, and make these 2 just little couplets instead of the tercets. And then as you keep going, like once I notice that there's kind of some abnormalities there, where there's not really a pattern to it, I'll give a quick look, be like, oh, there's lots of 4s. Okay, but those could be 2s also, right? You cut those in half. But then you have either 3 and a 2, or maybe that's a 5. I'm not sure. But then you keep going, you got a 4, you got a 5. So you just want things to be pretty consistent. 4, 2, 3, 5, 4. And usually rhymes happen in pairs. So anything that's not a 2 or a 4, I would try to trim down and get rid of. All right, so as we look at this, this is Grandma Got a Doll. I would change the word got here. I'll turn on the old track changes so you can see what I'm doing. I would make that has. Grandma has it all, right? Her name is Dottie Lou. I would, again, a lot of these, please know that your editor is doing what they think is best for your story, and you can agree or disagree with them, at least with me, right? All right, Grandma has a doll whose name is Dottie Lou. Why would I change that? Because the subject of this sentence is Grandma, and then her, there can be some confusion. Like, I get it, and I think that it's easy to read, and I don't like saying whose, so maybe I'd leave it. But is Grandma her? Is Grandma's name Dottie Lou? Is the doll's? That's the only reason I would have a little struggle with that, so we could tinker with that. And then she was once mine to hold. This could be a little confusing also, just because here we start with Grandma as a subject of the sentence, and then she is at Grandma. So just doing some tinkering with that, trying to bring some clarity. And then we go into Grandma has blue eyes and skin so soft and fair. Dottie Lou wears a dress with dots and ribbons in her hair. That's a decent pair right there. This part about speaking of pair, I would just remove that. So Grandma has blue eyes and skin so soft and fair. It actually sets you up to hear kind of a similar thing, like that Dottie Lou, tell me about her eyes and skin. But that doesn't really bother me that we don't do that. One thing you will need to fix, one thing I would recommend fixing, Dottie Lou wears a dress with dots. And this is a little bit tricky. This will take a little bit of thought, but it sounds like Dottie Lou wears a dress with dots and ribbons. And then you're like, oh, in her hair. So I would rephrase that to make it a little more obvious that the dress has dots, the ribbons are in her hair. I like the idea. It's cute. You can work with that. And then you go on. Grandma forgets faces and places. Names are getting hard too. In her mind, time's a jumble. Memories tangled in a stew. Ever since I gave her the doll, Grandma calls me Dottie Lou too. This line right here, super cute. I think it's super sweet, and I think it is relatable. This line, I would probably try to get rid of it, and then we don't want two and two rhyming because there's the same word. I would get rid of this middle line because it feels a little, I guess, I don't know if insensitive is the right word, but just talking about jumbled memories tangled in a stew. I totally understand what you're saying because, again, this is dealing with memory issues. But if there's a kind of a softer way to couch that, that's what I would do. And, something like Grandma forgets faces and places, names are getting hard too. And I would even try to change the rhyme. Name Grandma forgets faces and places and calls me by the wrong name. Sometimes calls me by the wrong name or something like that, right? And just to let you know, anytime I'm editing a kid's book, it takes a really long time because I'll jot things down like, right, and even gets my name wrong. She calls me Dottie Lou sometimes. Then you have to look up words that rhyme with wrong. I don't think I like the ending of that, but I would change that line so that we don't rhyme with two and two. And this also feels a little insensitive. But again, the author, you should know who your audience is and what's sensitive and insensitive. I'll try to point that out and try to adjust things. And that's in any kind of writing. Know who your audience is and what they expect. This is really sweet too, right? Grandma used to play with me. We had so much fun. Lately, it feels like Dottie Lou is Grandma's number one. I like that. That's fun. Fun, yeah. Here, I need to find out what's going on. I think I'll ask my dad. Dad is glad. That rhymes with dad, to have a talk. He's noticed I've been sad. Dad and sad are one of the rhymes I probably wouldn't use just because I think they're a stronger one. And I'd probably actually, there's a lot of back and forth that happens now, as you can see. This would be a good place to cut out, I think, and try to condense things. So I would try to condense as much as possible. And then if you see here, you should be able to see what I'm highlighting. We have two. This is the third rhyme that is two. So I would try to cut those out, removing the two. And here, going into kind of explain to the kid what dementia is, which is fine. This author knows a lot about Lewy body dementia. And so you have to be careful not to kind of over explain things, but to make sure things are broken down to a kid's level, which she's done here. Name and game, hyphen type. So there's a lot of this quotation stuff, which would take a lot of real estate. I would strip down to be very minimal, to keep moving toward the punch of the story, not to weigh the story down, but to strip as much as possible and keep the essence of what's being said here. And it's very possible. It takes a lot of work. And any writer knows, if no matter what you've been writing, it takes a lot of work to take a big section and trim it down. It's a lot easier to write long than in this short. These are sweet little things, right? Grandma's seeing things I don't, silly things only she can see. Hippo and a tutu prancing down the hall. These are fun things. I would just be thinking about sensitivity again. We won't harp on that. I think it's fun ideas though. And yeah, this kind of thing, this kind of sad moment is couched in good language, right? She's still fun. We always have a blast, but she forgot my birthday. That never happened in the past. I love that idea. And I think this is really strong. And this shows like the human consequence. One of them, the first ones that a kid might notice grandparent with Lewy body dementia. So that's important. And then, yeah, she goes on talking about with her dog. That's great. That's good. Yeah, so that's that story. I've talked longer than I expected to on this. You can see it's pretty long, so I would really, this one I would trim up as much as possible. And I'm just looking real quick. I don't see any questions. That's good. All right. So now, if you do have questions, what is it saying? One new message. Okay, somebody joined. All right, we're gonna keep on going. Next story we've got is called Lost Then Found. I know someone said something about this being all kids' books. This one is not. This is a novel. Again, I'm blocking out the author's name, so we didn't, because I didn't ask permission for that. And I'm going to try to go faster on this, and I'm sorry to take so long on that last one. But rhyming stories are particularly interesting and have their own challenges. But if you have questions, do ask away in the comments. All right, Lost Then Found. So here we go. Let's just jump into it. All right, so interesting way to start, Sophia. So when I see this as an editor, I think, okay, cool. There's going to be a different perspective for each chapter, right? You guys have read it where you jump into a different character's head, or you're at least following that character around, whether you're in their head or you're just seeing what's going on. So we got Sophia here in chapter 1. And so I think I'm curious who we're going to see next. We scroll down. Yeah, look at that little pretty thing. I scroll down and say, oh, Sophia again. Let me check. Yep, Sophia was the first one. Now we have Sophia again. All right, let's see what's next. Sophia again. Okay, this is an interesting setup. And then we have Jeremy. Okay, so we do change eventually. My initial thought, what I would ask the author to do is to change chapter 2 or chapter 1. Hey, your book right on. So yes, Moonrise Sourdough. I would encourage you, whenever you have perspectives, at least at the beginning of the book, you want to change your perspective every chapter. When you have it set up like this, readers need to know, why does it say Sophia? And then the next one, Sophia, you're like, wait, was the chapter title the same? And be like, oh, okay, it's the character's head. And so it's good to be changing from one chapter to the next. So that is what I would recommend. That is kind of reader expectation to do that. All right, so now let's do, actually, I'm going to do a teeny bit of editing, but first thing, you see this right here, it's the old spell check, right? And it's always encouraged to do a spell check. All you do, this is the AI that I like to use, spell check. So moo, it's not in the dictionary, and I'm like, that doesn't look right either. Just look it up. And I'm even going to look up, you can't see this, I'm off screen, I guess, looking up M-O-M-O or M-O-O-M-O-O. And funny enough, it should be spelled M-U-U-M-U-U. I'm going to look that up on Merriam-Webster to make sure. Yep, it looks super weird. So there's that. Oh, look, and somehow spell check didn't realize that's what it's supposed to be, but it has it. But then you can see, always before you send your stuff to an editor, always do a spell check. Now, I know this was kind of here's what I'm working on, so I don't expect it to be perfect. I mean, it won't be perfect no matter what. Even when I'm finished with it, that's life, right? We're human beings, we make mistakes. But if you were to send this off to someone for editing, always do a spell check. So here, you can see we're missing a space. You can just click that, it'll do it right. Same thing here. We will, so there's no space there. So just do it. Always run spell check on stuff before you shoot it off to an editor. I'm not getting on to you for not doing that on this, because this is kind of a unique situation. But whenever you send it off, do that. Now let's look at quick. This is my editing, and I've tried to put some thought into it this morning of what I would want to do, and maybe I should have edited it and then just shown you the edits, kind of highlighted or something, but I didn't do that, so I apologize. So here we go, Sophia. As I trudge my way down the black and white tiled steps of my Brooklyn apartment, I crash into Edith rounding the corner with rollers. I think that's supposed to be caught, so we'll fix that real quick. Caught in her blonde and white hair, sporting a pink muumuu with yellow duckies. All right, that's a personally, I think it's a stronger start to just say I, and we can take away my way. I trudge down the black and white. Now these, those hyphens right there, if you have multiple, like you don't have black steps, you don't have white steps, you have black and white tiled steps. You don't have to do that. It's really your preference. I mean, it's good to do it, but and you can even do black and white. Ooh, my stomach's growling. Tiled. I know there's someone out there who knows better than me probably, but yeah, you want to make sure it's clear as you're going. I trudged down the black and white tiled steps in my Brooklyn apartment and crash into Edith rounding the corner with rollers caught in her blonde and white hair. I won't do too much. I would say she sports a pink muumuu. Shoot, nope, that doesn't sound. This is what editing is, going back and forth, and I don't even like what I did here. I trudged down the black and white tiled steps of a Brooklyn apartment and crash into Edith. Let's see. And crash into Edith rounding the corner. Oh man, yeah, I should have done the editing before, because this is what editing looks like. It's starting and being like, oh, maybe we want to start back how it was. And I trudge down the black and white style toes. Are we going to apartment or crash into either round? You could maybe cut out. Crash into Edith. I like rounding the corner because it drives down the black and white top steps over an apartment. I'm just going to tinker. All right, you can watch me tinker and crash into Edith rounding the corner. Rollers, bounce, their blonde and white hair. And I don't know. This is me just tinkering, right? This is all we tinker for. My tear-filled eyes. I guess from the bumping into somebody, the tear-filled eyes. I was trying to figure out if you've been crying for something else. Only register a blur of pink and yellow. I'd probably cut all this out, only because you've already said that she's got a muumuu with a pink muumuu with yellow duckies. So it's, as you're the narrator, or I'm sorry, as Sophia is, we know that she's seen it. You can say something a lot, I don't like how that second sentence reads. I trudged down the black and white tile steps of my broken apartment, crash into Edith around a corner. Rollers bounce in her blonde. We're gonna cut a bunch of these edits out. This is what it is over and over and over. I trudged down the block. Crash. I don't like starting with an as though. I'd have to tinker with that a little more. Anyways, here we've got this, the pink and yellow. I'd probably get rid of that just because we've already said the pink muumuu and the yellow duckies. I would also, instead of saying my tear-filled eyes, if you want to say something about tears fill your eyes, tears bubble up in my eyes from the pain or whatever, then that could be good. As it is, the tear-filled eyes kind of feel like Oh, yes. Okay. So you meant taught. Okay. That's T. Let me Google it to make sure it's T-A-U-T. Okay. Yeah. Gotcha. Okay. Sorry about that. Hey, Mayor. And I am just making sure I'm not missing anything. I'm sorry. Okay. Blonde or blonde? Yeah. Good question. Blonde is usually, yeah, female is E. All right. Rollers taught or blonde and white hair. Corner rollers taught. And so also you've set up, I know we're only doing one sentence, but that's okay. I crashed into Ethan around the corner. Rollers taught. So we have that form of the verb, right? Taught and her blonde hair. And then we go to sporting. I would tinker around to try to make these two similar instead of having ing here. That's going to take a little work, but it's very possible. Again, you can say that tears filled my eyes. I would take out the pink and blue, pink and yellow, I'm sorry. And you can just say tears filled my eyes. Tears filled my eyes. As instead of the suitcase, if you, because it's the first time, just do a quick description of what it is, right? As my brown leather, whatever it is, my brown leather suitcase slips from my tightly coiled grip. I snatch it back up and recenter myself with a steady breath. Yeah, nice. The sweetie, she says, an exaggerated frown. I would take this out because when someone is saying, oh, sweetie, you can kind of feel the, oh, sweetie, right? And I like to, I forget, who was it? There's an editor on TikTok that's talking about using adverbs and giving all this description stuff after says or saying like exclaimed or whatever. And anything you put in there stops the reader. Whereas saying she says is kind of invisible, right? It just kind of anchors you to who is saying this, and then you can keep going. And you might want to say Edith here, just because you don't have to, because you or I. So yeah, actually, we don't need to do that. Today, can't believe you're leaving us. Yeah. So this has taken a while also. Oh yeah, those gender differences, and they're not the end of the world. My guess is like the word literally, and who and whom, people will stop caring about the differences and just keep on keeping on. Another quick thing I see as I'm coming just scrolling, we see Band-Aid. I would probably put bandage. There's not going to be any legal issues, but this cuts out the possibility. Yeah, laser focus on those tiny alternating squares of black and white to avoid her eyes. I like that. I like bringing back these black and white tiles. I would cut this out because it's obvious why you're doing it, right? You don't want to look at her. Laser focus on it and finally curse myself for not leaving a minute earlier in order to avoid this. This is good. I really like this. Not that I don't appreciate Edith. She more than deserves. She deserves. I'd probably move that. She deserves more than a formal goodbye. She's been the only one. She's been the only one around here who's. And also, anytime you have an opportunity to make it sound more natural, and please know, I'm not picking on anybody's writing. I'm just trying to point out what's going through my head as I'm doing it. She's been the only one around here who's taken the time to reach out. Who's taken time to reach out since things went upside down. I would possibly do this, since just take out the ellipses. I'm not a real big fan of ellipses. One reason, let me see, I haven't done this, so I may just look like a moron. Yeah, there's only one other. Okay. Some people like to use ellipses and overuse them. So if you do, take them out. But having that hesitation there is actually good. So maybe I would, where'd it go? Yeah, I would maybe save the hesitation like with the ... I know that we're in the character's head, but I like to use that kind of thing in dialogue. So if she was saying this out loud to someone, I've not seen you since the thing happened, and then you can have that kind of stuff. Otherwise, I prefer not to use ellipses, and even in dialogue, I will usually use an M dash. I know that AI has ruined the M dash for everyone, but it's good. It's useful. The only reason that AI uses it is because writers use it. Still, all I want is a clean escape, and this bandage isn't ripping off the way. Yeah, I would make this. The contraction also isn't ripping off the way I'd hoped. And just a note on contractions. Someone has told me a long time ago that after writing in school for years and teachers telling you, for formal writing, you don't use contractions, it can get stuck in your head that you shouldn't use contractions. I don't always use contractions, but I almost always use contractions. They're more natural. It's how we speak. Saves you some space also. All right, so let's see. I've been on this one for a little while. Yep. So this is like a lot of information between these two things, these two little sentences. So what I would change this to, so she said, you're leaving, today's the day you're leaving us. I'd just make this yup. Instead of I force out, and then I would just put this here. I'd throw my, I'd throw a thumb. And I don't know if that's quite the right language. When you think of like throwing a thumb, it's like, oh, watch this. Right, it's like you're taking a thumb off and you're actually throwing it. I don't know what the language, yeah, but it could work just fine. But I would cut out that middle part and just have it, yep, throw a thumb over my shoulder, car's waiting for me. And I think that does the trick. This is good. You got good dialogue. It's not overdone, right? One thing that you need to watch for when you're doing dialogue, which this author didn't do, so well done. I know you already claimed yourself. Many forms of punctuation. Yeah. When you're doing dialogue, it's good to have like, here's 2 paragraphs of dialogue and then something happens, or she's thinking something and then dialogue and then some more stuff happens. Look at this. I mean, there's like multiple paragraphs of just happenings, and that's good. A lot of, and I know here's some dialogue like embedded into this paragraph, which is great. If you have page after page after page, maybe not page after page, but tons of paragraphs of nothing but text, I would encourage, or I'm sorry, of nothing but dialogue. Take one of those dialogue pieces and explain what's being said, or do something to break up the dialogue. Show what's happening around them for just a moment, right? A bird chirps in the distance, or if you can do something that's meaningful to your story, even better. Somebody throws a empty soda bottle at them, like a beer can or something. You can mention that. Yeah. All right. So I'm going to thank you for this one. Hopefully this was helpful. I don't want to be on here all day. I'm trying to move faster. I like to use many forms of punctuation. Right on. Yeah, we did too. It's just use them at the right place. Don't overuse exclamation points. You're probably maybe talking about ellipses. I don't know. But don't overuse exclamation points either. A lot of people do it. So be careful with that. Try to figure out what actually needs it. A lot of people think to move sentences around and the importance of structure and paragraphs. Yeah, indeed. But that's part of learning, right? And we're all in the process, which is a great thing. All right. I'm going to try to do 2 more. Both of these are kids' books, and I'm going to try to do them quickly. All right. I'll see what I can do. First one up. We're going to keep this under an hour if we can. It's already been 40 minutes. Woo, time flies. Thank you for the kind words. Kids' books. All right, here we go. So again, we don't know who the author is. Got blacked it out. This is called Where's the Kingfisher? I really like that title. It's pretty cool. All right. again, first thing I notice, word count. I don't know if you can see this down here, but it's, oops, I had something highlighted. It is 1,759 words. That's a long picture book. It says for ages 4 to 8, that's going to be a picture book. It could maybe be an early reader. If so, I would still try to cut it down. Yeah, it does take stuff off. So it's pretty long, and it's important to remember, why do I make picture books so short? Because you have two audiences, parents and kids. First audience is usually parents, and kids have a hard time sitting through long books. If a lot of kids do, and parents do also. If you have any kids, and there's certain books where you're like, I don't want to get into that book because it's a long book. I want to get the kid to bed, right? You want it to be a good book. You want to enjoy reading the book, and you want it to be a quick read. We talked about 150 to 600 words is where I like them to be. Kids' books are generally 24 to 32 pages, and you have to fit text and illustrations. So there's no room for extra anything. So words are a good place to cut, and it forces you to really hone in on what is your story about. So when you're editing, if I were editing this, I see the title, Where's the Kingfisher? It's like, okay, so this is going to be a book about finding a kingfisher. Now, it could be totally surprising. It's just a tricky title. Yeah, I'm going to try to do it later, and it'll be uploaded on YouTube live also. The whole thing will be on there. Thanks for coming in. So you want everything to focus in on the purpose of the story. Now, I have read the story, and it really is like the pinnacle of the story is when they find the kingfisher. You can see this at the beginning of the story. So here we have a beautiful spring day, chirping birds with a grin. Mom gathers everyone as they hop out of the car. As the morning sun shines down, she announces the day's adventure involving searching for everyone's favorite bird, the kingfisher, at Chattahoochee Nature Center. Ellie whispers Chattahoochee, right? She can't pronounce it because it's a funny thing. That's cute. She thinks about her favorite camp. She and her brother have gone to camp here every year. Now they know the trails and animals inside and out. They know they can find the kingfisher. All right. There's really one or two sentences that I would keep in here. All right, we need to get to the kingfisher ASAP. So a lot of this, like the setup, beautiful spring day as they park surrounded by trees and trees. At the park, I don't know. Maybe it's they park the car and they're surrounded by. It doesn't matter. I would delete all this and just have. I would start the story saying something like, guess what we're doing today? Mom says, or it's present tense. That's another thing to watch out for is tenses. Guess what we're doing today? Mom says. And then, you can have the kids they're pulling up to the nature center, right? And one of the kids is like, kingfisher, and they get excited about it. All right. So I would strip that down. And then we have these kind of things, which is, if you do this, it's also good to clear out. She thinks about her favorite camp. She and her brother have gone to camp every year, and they know the trail inside and out. She knows she'll be able to find the kingfisher. This is extra information. Like, when you see a book like Where's the Kingfisher, and you realize, okay, they're going to be looking for a kingfisher. That's what the story needs to focus on. There's going to be obstacles to that. You don't know what the obstacles will be, but you don't need to know kind of all the backstory about how they've been there a whole bunch. I mean, some of that can be helpful sometimes, but I would recommend, guess what we're doing today, Mom says. One of the kids is like, or even Mom will say, we're going to look for the kingfisher. They get excited. They're already there. They get out and they start walking around. All right, now you can introduce the characters. Ellie whispers Chattahoochee to herself. And knows she'll find, and knows. Yeah, actually, I forgot to put on the stuff. Sorry. And knows she'll find the kingfisher. And then we don't have to say he's an animal lover. Jackson jumps with anticipation. Is already staring at the sky. I wouldn't have him jumping and looking at the sky because it'd be kind of tricky, You can have Jackson. Yeah. Also, anything where you have the word is, I would cut it out. stares into the sky, something like, eager to see the famous bird before Ellie. And then finally we have Big Brother Grant. And we don't have to have him doing memories either. We just have him grab his day bag and water bottle. All right. And so now we've got a little bit tighter of a start, and then they start down the trail. That's how I would really tighten this up. And the thing is, there's really cute stuff. So I know when you write this, it is hard to cut stuff out. It's not fun, but they find bees, right? They follow a bee to the bee house, and then all this text is bee talk. Actually, I'm sorry, all of this text is bee talk. That's a lot of space in a picture book. That's 136 words. Some picture books don't have that many words. So I would strip that down where you can fit it on maybe a spread or something like that. Don't worry about pages right now. Here, we've got beavers, canoes, box turtles. So they're seeing all kinds of stuff. And then the rest of this, I think this is where the author said she hadn't quite finished working on stuff. So that's how I would start the first one. And I'm going to say this again for the next book, but usually picture books operate in threes, and jokes do the same thing, right? So we know they're looking for the kingfisher. So they're going to have some failures along the way. So maybe you could have two big failures, and the kingfisher is, hey, it finally works out. I don't know. Just thoughts off the top of my head. And now once we get to the end, the author did a good job here. Let's see, where are we? Okay, they hadn't seen a kingfisher. I'm sorry. And then they do finally see it. This is great, right? We can set this up. I think I hear something. Yep, there's one. They see the kingfisher, and they wonder what it'd be like to be one. And then we have all this is about thinking that he's a kingfisher. That's a lot of text also. I would strip that down to a couple sentences or, a paragraph. And then the author does a good job here of kind of wrapping the story up, right? I wonder what animals we might see next time. That's what you want to do at the end of the picture book. You tuck us into bed, pile us into the car, have a nice, soft ending that eases us out of the story. She did that. Well done. I would, again, shorten it up quite a bit because my motto is shorter is better. I know that the short kings out there appreciate that. But all right, let me see real quick, make sure I'm not missing anything. I don't think I have. Thank you guys for your kind words. All right. Cool. All right. So that is Where's the Kingfisher? And because I was planning on doing 4, so we're going to do 4. So I'm going to try to move quick on this one. This is a really interesting manuscript. It's called Your Amazing Skin. All right. Before we get into it, we can see they have put page numbers on here. I would recommend not worrying about page numbers, and she probably didn't until she had her story. Everybody thinks differently though, right? As an editor, I would delete the page numbers because the page numbers are going to change. And just a heads up, if you're doing your own book, if you want to self-publish, you will not start on page 1. Not that this really matters, to be honest, but page 1 is going to be in printing world. When you open a book, the first page you see, that blank page or like a title page or whatever it is, that's page 1. So that's already spent. What she meant on here, and this is totally normal, it's page 2, which is the page on the left, and then page 3 on the right. So your even pages are always going to be on the left, odd pages on the right. Not a big deal at all. But again, the first thing I would do if I were editing this would be to get rid of all these page numbers. And I'm going to hide these because this is how I usually work. No, I do track changes with no markup because I don't like looking at the red stuff. All right, so here we go. Your amazing skin. Your skin is beautiful, just the way it is. It protects you from yucky germs. It heals you from cuts, scrapes, and bruises. Good stuff. Love it. It stretches with you as you grow up to be big and strong. It's a carnival of freckles. Look at that. This author, I mean, this is the kind of language that makes, I don't know, that takes advantage of the picture book format. You have few words. She's got 309 words, so pretty good word count. And you're using strong visuals, great language. So yeah, I dig it. Honor plaque of battle scars. All right, so she goes on, and I'm gonna try to finish up. And if anybody has questions, I can sit here for a minute and give you a chance. All right, so this part I love. I really like it. And then it gets to, you don't need special cleansers and exfoliants because they can make your skin very dry. Now, the first time I read this, I thought, oh, that's really interesting. Okay, kids' books about this. The author told me that there are, let me see, I wrote it down. Where is it? There is a thing called Sephora Kids, and Sephora is a makeup brand. I know that because I'm a girl dad. And apparently there are Sephora Kids in the making, which I didn't know that started as young as 4. And so she wrote this book to encourage kids not to do that. Now, noble goal. I love it. But we can see here, she goes into what the skincare does. I really like the story. So this part right here, though, this little section, I would probably either cut out or reword. It needs to be softer. Why? I think it's a good idea to tell kids not to do skincare products, but kids don't, or you'll never have like a 2 to 10-year-old buy your book. I mean, maybe a 10-year-old. Parents buy these books, and the parents are the ones who are turning their kids into Sephora Kids. All right. I'm not here to insult anybody, what they're doing with their kids and stuff, but if you want kids to get this message, you have to present it in a way that parents will dig. All right. That parents won't feel attacked. So if you can say these kind of things without maybe calling out specific products, and just say your skin's great, it does its job. Yeah, moisturizer, whatever is fine. But your skin needs to breathe. You don't need makeup or any of that kind of stuff. I think that would help people want to grab the book because parents don't like to be told they're doing the wrong thing. But if you can kind of do it in a soft way, when they read it and think, oh, wow, skin does all this stuff. Like, I don't need like all these extra products that I'm using on my skin for a kid. 'Cause I love the book. Like, it protects you from yucky germs, heals you. Skin is an amazing thing. And then we end with, all you need is some water, some sunscreen, and a big fat hug. That's funny. Remember, the skin you're in is already beautiful. You're beautiful. Another thing I noticed on here, used the word beautiful. Let's see. Not overly used, but a few times. Yeah, 4 times in a short book. I would trim that down. And here you could do it pretty easy, right? The skin you're in, and you could take out the word that. That's another word that I always encourage people to remove, that. The skin you're in is already beautiful. And then here you could say, so are you, right? Instead of having beautiful again. Just little things that tighten things up and gives it kind of a punch there at the end. But I do fear that the middle part of the book would scare parents who are your audience away. Now, you may be able to sell to people who already agree with you. But like a book like this, I don't think that's what you're trying to do. I think you're trying to reach parents who maybe have bought into this idea that you need certain things to make your kids look a certain way. And also here at the top, I noticed there's a really interesting setup that you can do with picture books. All right, we start with your skin is beautiful, just the way it is. Then shortly after, and you can see it's not very far. You come down here with me. Your skin is wonderful. All right. And then what I would like to see, what you have the potential to do with this one, is to have a third. your skin is. Again, picture books work in threes, so if you want to do that, that could be great. Yeah, but hopefully that was helpful. You don't need fancy work. That's right. Moisturizer, cleanser, still important. Possibly, yeah. I mean, our kids, we just gave them baths. I'm not a skin expert. I'm just thinking audience-wise, like what folks might expect. So yeah, I think that's all I'm gonna do. I went through things. Hopefully I gave you some information. It went a little longer than I expected, almost an hour. But is there any questions or comments that anybody watching has? Because I'd love to fill those. If so, I see that Mayor Bear had to bounce and said that she hopes I do it again. So we may do it again sometime. But any questions? If not, that's not a problem at all. I'm here for you. Can you tell if people really use AI in writing? Yeah, I can tell because people tell me. Thankfully, thus far, people are honest. And then I can also tell by AI just uses certain language often that can feel that way. But yeah, I'm sure there's plenty of writing out there by AI that I would not detect. But for the most part, to my knowledge, people who use it are honest about it. So I don't know that everybody is. But in my experience, no one is really trying to hide it right now. And let's see, what's your usual audience age? It just depends on the book, right? Like for picture books, obviously it's 2 to 8 or 4 to 10 or something like that. And it's really not my audience age. It's the audience of my authors. So what their book is. I do picture books. We do poetry collections, do novels, young adult novels, do nonfiction, done a bunch of memoirs for folks. So it's really all over the map. I've done educational books for people. Yeah. I've heard a lot of editors hate writers who use it. Yeah, the authors, I'm sorry, I'm gonna come back to yours. Hot Roar, the authors, oh yeah, I just think you were saying you meant what I was saying. Yeah. So it's whatever their audience is, whatever their book is, right? For kids, for young adults, for grandparents, for cooks. We do cookbooks. Yeah. And a lot of editors we don't hate writers, but we do hate it when writers use AI. We don't accept manuscripts created by AI or helped with AI. So we've had a growing number of submissions come in where people tell us that they had AI help edit their book. And whenever I hear that, I ask them if they have a version of their story that hasn't been touched by AI. And then they send me that version of the story, and that's what I work on. If they don't have a version that hasn't been touched by AI, we just don't touch it. The copyright rules and all that stuff are still kind of in flux. I don't feel real comfortable touching AI stuff anyway because it takes some of the humanity out of the stories. AI, yeah, we're not fans. I don't want to talk about AI. I'm worn out on it. Oh, and questions over here. I'm sorry. How do you know if your book is a picture book versus an early reader? Kind of the content and the length of it. Early readers can be a little bit longer, but because they're early readers, you often will have simpler language in them because kids are learning to read them, right? So you have to use simpler language and often, contrary to what I was saying, use the same word multiple times. It's okay to be a little more repetitive in those because you're teaching kids words. Yeah, good question. No, thank you. And yes, succinct wins the day. Would pro writing aid program AI? Thank you, Hopper. Horror. Pro writing. I don't use pro writing aid, and I'm not sure. Like we use when I'm editing, you could see it. I use Microsoft Word, but I have whatever their AI thing is turned off. I don't remember what it's called. One, it's super annoying to have them constantly telling you suggestions that you have to not pay attention to. And two, it feeds into their AI training, which I can't in good conscience allow my clients, my authors' manuscripts get used by AI. I just don't know the extent of what that will mean, and I don't want to use it. Like I don't need it, and yeah, it makes you lazy and melt your brain. Any non-AI questions? Did I publish horror? Yeah, we just did a kind of a psychological horror. Is interesting, based-ish on an author's true life experience. But yeah, pretty fun. Now we don't do over the top like explicit language or explicit scenes and stuff like that. But a little gore is not a problem. And the reason we don't do that other stuff is we're small. Like my wife and I do the bulk of the editing and the layout design, and we're just not big fans of explicit kind of stuff. So because it can take us a while to publish a book, to edit a book, lay it out, we have to work with it quite a while. We only do books that we like. So yeah. Selling you times 3. That's a lot of selling. All right. Well, any other questions before we jump off and go eat lunch if you're on the Eastern time zone? All right. Well, I think I'm going to wrap it up. Thank you guys so much. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. If you want to watch this again, it'll be on YouTube live streamed. Yeah, yeah, it'll be uploaded to YouTube. Hopefully, if I did it right. Yeah, we are. Some call us hybrid publishers. You can call us whatever you want. I think I call us a self-publishing partner. You basically pay for a service. I've been writing and editing for a career since 2002. So we edit the books, we lay out the interior, we do the cover design, all that stuff, and you're in control the whole time. So if you don't like an edit we suggest, you reject it. Whatever you want your cover to look like, we do that for you. If you want, whatever you want your book to look like, we will do that for you. We're here to serve you. So it's a service-based program, basically. Then once we're done, you own all rights to everything. You have access to all your files, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. Feel free to reach out and we'll see what we can do. I'm super excited about the possibilities. I had a lot of fun. Hopefully this was helpful. You're welcome, Brooke. Thank you guys for tuning in. And have a wonderful Saturday. And now you can watch me for the next few minutes while I try to figure out how to turn this off. All the best. Told you it's going to take a while. Oh, that one's easy. Okay. Cool.